Hey guys, welcome back to Faith Family Cars. We got another shop video for you today. We are actually working on my Bullnose. So don't mind the dust. This truck has been neglected all winter long. Typically I have the engine bay looking really clean, but like I said, it's been neglected. I kind of feel bad for it. It's kind of sad, but it sat outside all winter and got a little rough looking, but I drove it all winter too. So every chance I got and when it would run. That said, that's what we're looking at today. So currently I have a Holley Sniper EFI on here, and as you can see, you all that don't know or haven't heard me talk about it, it's a 306. It's got a cam in it, 4-barrel intake, EFI headers, pretty good running old truck, but the EFI not so good. So I know a lot of guys we're going to get, I already know we're going to get all kinds of comments on this, okay? So I'm just going to tell you all my experience with the Holley EFI and why I'm moving away from it. So when I first rebuilt this motor, I put a Holley 4-barrel 600 CFM carburetor on it. Truck ran great, smoked the tires off of it, no issues at all, broke the engine in, and I had the EFI unit ready to go on it. But I wanted to break it in with the carb first. So I installed the EFI system, and right out the gate it seemed like it was going to be okay. It started self-learning, had no issues, and I thought we were going to be good. But the longer I drove it, I started noticing issues. To start out, we were having it wanted to run on wide open throttle. If you got on it really hard, it would just fall on its face. Okay, so I talked with Holley. We worked through some tuning issues, which the guy that I worked with at Holley was great. I know a lot of people have problems with their customer service. It is hard to get a hold of somebody, but once I got a hold of this guy, he gave me his email, and we were constantly back and forth, and him helping me do things. If I called him, he would answer. So he helped me do some tuning to it. Didn't change anything. I drove it for weeks, you know, after tuning it, letting it learn. Didn't change anything. That's still an issue. You cannot lay any rubber on the road with this truck right now because it will just fall on its face every time you get into the throttle. The more concerning issue to me is the constant idle issues I've had with this truck. Cold weather, it won't idle above 500 RPM until it warms up to above 175 degrees. After that, it'll idle fine, runs great. Warm weather, you fire it up on a warm day, it'll idle 750 right out the gate, like it should. Now, the only issue is after you drive it for a long extended period of time, when you stop at red lights, it wants to idle at over 1,000 RPM. And that is due to the fact that about every 6 months, you have to take the throttle blades out, you have to clean them, and put them back in and adjust them. Every 6 months. That has been an issue since day one with this thing. So I've had multiple other issues with the throttle position sensor. It's just been an ongoing fight with this thing. But today we've got a 75-degree day. I could probably hop in it. It would run great for the first 100 miles, and then the throttle blades would be sticking open on it. So I know I've been on Holley Sniper forums, and a lot of you guys have had these exact same issues. I've had this on here for I think 2 years now. I'm done with it. I'm done fighting the constant problems. I'm done with just all the time having to adjust stuff. You know, I can throw a carburetor back on here and have it tuned in 15 minutes. Some of you guys are probably a lot better than that because I'm not real good at it. And I'll never have to touch it again, especially here in the Southeast. You know, I mean, when elevation's not an issue, I can drive that truck anywhere with that carburetor and never touch it. So, and maybe it's my application. Maybe it's because it's on a 306 I've had these problems. And I don't know, but that could be part of the tuning issue, you know, with it wanting to fall on its face. So But that's not my biggest problem. All the other issues is the reason I'm getting rid of it, because I know that I could take it to somebody who's a tuner who knows a lot more about these than I do, and they could get this thing running good. But that doesn't fix the issues with idle. That doesn't fix the issues with the throttle blades. And I'm done with it. So I think I've ranted on it long enough. But I want you guys to understand why I'm getting ready to do what I'm doing. Now, Zach, show them up on the shelf. Up on the shelf, you see a couple of Aces boxes. One of them's a little dirty because we had some work going on and it got a little dirty. But I originally bought an Aces system to go on this truck. That was my plan. I've had that system for nearly 6 months. Haven't got around to putting it on. You know, the podcast was starting to really take off. We were starting to do a lot with it and never got around to it, plus all the other projects that the boys had going on too in here. So never got to the Aces. And at this point right now, we're getting ready to take this on Hot Rod Power Tour in less than 3 weeks. And I don't want to put a fresh fuel injection system on here, knowing the problems I've had with the Holly. And I know that the Aces guys have told me that the things that they have done with the Aces systems resolve all these problems. But I don't want to take that chance. I don't want to drive 1,500 miles and have to worry about these issues popping up and me constantly have to tune it on it. That's going to take the fun out of Power Tour for me. So what I would prefer to do is just go back with the carb, and I'm pretty sure that I might just leave a carb on this for the future. I just like how it ran with the carb on it. And I've got a box full of jets if I need to make adjustments for hitting some different elevations. And I've got, you know, a screwdriver and a wrench, and I can tune it. So, you know, I'd much rather, I feel like, to me, I know everybody talks about the dependability of fuel injection. This has not been dependable for me. And maybe some of that is because of my own stupidity with electronics or with, you know, anything computerized. Maybe that's what it is. But to me, the carburetor is more reliable. It's more reliable, and if I have a major issue with the carburetor, I can stop by an O'Reilly's or an Advance or whatever and pick another one up off the shelf and throw it on there. And I'm going to tell you right now, I did barely any tuning. I put a brand new carb on this when I broke it in. I barely did any tuning to it at all, and it ran like a champ. So basically set my timing, set my adjustment screws, and that was it. I mean, 5 minutes I had it rolling.
So we know that probably a lot of y'all in the comments are gonna, you know, say something like, oh, well, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Listen, we have tried everything. We've talked to Holly themselves. They've given us information. We've talked to other people that run the system. They've given us information. I've talked to people who have installed these systems. They don't run on their own vehicles, but they've installed them. And the problems we have, they're like, yeah, those are issues that their customers have had too. And whatever you tell us, we've tried it, I promise.
Yeah,
so there's no reason to try to convince us like, oh, you got to go back to it. It's worth it. It's not worth it for us. It's really not.
Last year on Power Tour, I talked to actual installers who had their own companies. They installed Holly Snipers, and they told me things to try. I came home and tried them. No difference. No difference. So I don't know if there's something wrong with this unit in particular. I have sent this back to Holly, and they have went through it and said there's nothing wrong with it. But whatever's going on with it, I'm just done. Okay? And I'd rather just go back to the carburetor and know that when I hop in here, I'm going to pump that gas once or twice, and it's going to fire right up, and I don't have to worry about anything else.
I mean, that car was dependable.
Yeah. Oh, it's very dependable.
People talk about the dependability of fuel injection, but I'll tell you what, I mean, this thing, you pump the gas twice and it starts every single time without hesitation, every single time.
You know, an old motor like this that isn't supposed to have that big cam in it, isn't supposed to have a 4-barrel intake, isn't supposed to have headers on it, you know, it's probably better just to have a carburetor.
Maybe it's just the wrong application for the Holly, you know that.
Yeah. So I know there is some guys that are running these systems on their 306s, and they're probably just a lot better tuner than I am, I'm sure. You know, that's not nothing that I know much about.
We're old school.
Yeah, so I'd rather just keep it old school. I can have a lot more fun that way. So that's what we're doing today on today's video. After all that rant, but I wanted to get that out of the way so everybody knows why I'm doing what I'm doing, and we can jump into what we're about ready to do. So we've got a fairly new, I ran it on here 6 months, 600 CFM Holley carburetor that's going to go back on this truck. And so we'll be rerouting our fuel lines. We'll be putting the carburetor electric fuel pump back on. So I say carburetor electric fuel pump, but it's a lower PSI fuel pump. Like I said, we'll reroute our fuel lines a little bit. We're going to get rid of all the wiring that we don't need, because I don't like anything extra in the engine bay if it don't have to be there. So all that's going to come out. But it should be pretty quick and simple. When I sent that EFI system back to Holley, I swapped it over to a Carb within a couple hours. So it didn't take long. I got mad one night because I was supposed to be at shop truck gathering and the truck wouldn't run, and I just ripped it out.
Literally ripped it out. He's not joking.
Yeah.
He literally just ripped it out.
And I put the carburetor back in there. I couldn't get it all done that night. I was up to like 1 o'clock in the morning, and finally I just said, I'm not going to make it the shop truck. So, but I almost had the carb. I had the carb mounted. I had fuel lines going, but I didn't have it all completed. I was just tired, and I said I'm done with it for the night. So we missed shop truck gathering, and I was fired up. That got boxed up, sent to Holley, and of course they sent it back saying that was wrong with it.
It's frustrating when you spend all that money and you can't even get the truck to run.
Yeah. And it ran. It was running fine for
it literally just stopped. It literally just
wouldn't stay running.
Actually, that was when you first put it on, and it was actually very dependable for that first couple weeks there. We weren't really having any issues at all, and then all of a sudden it literally wouldn't start. Just wouldn't start at all.
So I finally did figure out that problem, and I do think I had an ECM issue that fried my ignition box. So, and that's what ended up being the problem. It took me a little bit to trace it to that, but that ended up being a problem. And I knew that had happened. That's one of the reasons I ripped it all out, and I was sending it back. So,
but is it really worth it to try to chase down gremlins all the time when you can just pop a carburetor on it?
That's right. That's right. I'm tired of the electronics. This is just an old, stripped down, base level truck. Never had an option on it.
It's a cruiser.
Yeah.
It's a cruiser,
I don't need all that.
Nope.
So I'm going to hit Power Tour with a 4-barrel carburetor on it, and we're going to go have some
fun. I bet you don't have a single issue.
I don't think that I will. But we are getting it on about 3 weeks ahead of time so that we can test drive it and make sure that it's, all the kinks are worked out before we take off with it. So that's today's project, and we're going to hop into it by pulling this old EFI system off. Okay, so like that, the EFI is off. And we're gonna get rid of this thing. All right, so we got Caleb over here working on the rear end for the Pinto. This is an 8-inch Maverick rear end that we're putting in it, and he's sliding the axles out so he can clean up the housing and get it painted for me. So we can put this together and hopefully have the Pinto at the cruise in. Might not happen, but we're going to work on it. But we're using these stock axles. I think they're pretty straight. Splines look good. We are going to put some new bearings on it. Yep. I picked this old rear end up from Justin Maverico on Instagram. Known him for a little while now. He deals in Maverick parts. So if you need anything for your Maverick, check him out. So I'm gonna help Caleb get this other axle out and then back on the truck. All right guys, so here is our Holley 600 CFM 4-barrel carburetor. Nice, bright, shiny. Like I said, it's only like 6 months, well, several years old at this point, but it was only used for like 6 months. So I got a little bit of prep work to do to this thing because I, for whatever reason, am not a big fan of electronic chokes. Okay, so I have bought the kit to convert this carburetor to a manual choke. I like the manual choke better. And I had a 600 CFM Holley that I had on a 302 that was in this truck originally with a manual choke on it. Loved it. Bought this one with the electric choke. Hated it. So we're going to convert this one over. Okay guys, so I've got everything pre-assembled. All the linkage for the choke cable, this cam and everything back here rides on the lever. And then I hate to lay this down. I don't want it to come apart on me. There's nothing really holding it together yet till you screw it on. And then your throttle cable set, retainer and set screw on this Street Warrior style carburetor. It's got this vacuum diaphragm here. It actually bolts to the side of that. So on some of the older carburetors that don't have this, it bolts. You have let's see, you got a different piece. I don't know where it's at. Anyway, you got a different piece that actually bolts onto this linkage that I just showed you. So, but this is how ours goes together. Took me a minute to figure that out because I'm like, how's this thing go to, it doesn't fit, right? So I had to look up a picture of a brand new Holley 600 Street Warrior with a manual choke to see how this thing went together. So yeah, because it's a little different. The last time I put a manual choke on, it was on an older model 600 CFM, quite a bit older, and it had been rebuilt for me. And yeah, it didn't have this little vacuum deal. I don't even know what that's for, to be honest. Somebody, I'm sure, who knows a lot about carburetors will know. Anyway, that's how this one goes together. Now I'm going to try to put all this linkage together, and I've got, this is our linkage for our throttle plate, and I've got to get that through this little hole right here while installing it. So open and closed. Seems to be functioning properly. Okay, now we're ready to install this carburetor so we can see how our fuel lines and stuff need to be ran. So let's go put it on. Before we install that carburetor, we're going to check out how Caleb's doing on the rear end. Looks like he's got the first coat of paint on. got it all cleaned up. I mean, it's pitted and a little rough in places, but we're not going to worry about it too bad. He's got a few coats to go on it, it looks like, and it should look pretty good. Good enough for that Pinto. All right, so it looks like the rear end for the Pinto is going pretty good. Caleb's got that first coat of paint on. We're going to test fit this carburetor because I know we're going to have to reroute these fuel lines, so I need to see where they're going to go so that I can install the fuel pump and change the fuel lines around. And then after that, we'll be ready to get it all bolted in, hooked up, and get our choke hooked up and get it fired up. So, but we got a ways to go before that. Remember how this thing, I think it'll fit this way. There we go. All right. Get our adapter on. Whoops. There we go. That's how it's going to sit. So to where our fuel lines went right here, they looped right around to here on the fuel injection because I had to turn it sideways for it to fit. The fuel line on this one's going to come across the front. As you can see, I already had a mount right here where I had it on here previously. So that fuel line will lay right in that mount and loop right around and connect. I hate it because the fuel line connects on the front like that, but it is what it is. Alright guys, so we are underneath the truck, as you can see, and here is the Holley electric fuel pump for the EFI. Now on my carbureted system with this motor, I have previously ran a electric fuel pump, low pressure electric fuel pump for a carburetor, and that's what we're going to go back to. I can say this fuel pump is decently loud, but the Carb fuel pump is much louder. That is one thing I hate. I could probably buy a really expensive one and get away with less noise, but I'm not going to do that. The cheap one has worked really well, and actually, I mean, I guess it's cheap. It wasn't real cheap. It's a Summit Racing brand, but it was still over $100. I could go mechanical fuel pump, but I chose to go electric, and I'm not turning back on that. So it is what it is. We just deal with a little bit of extra noise. But I'm going to take these fuel lines loose up through here, all the way up. We can take them loose. We will not need a return line, so I will end up plugging this. I'll hang it up a little higher and plug it off. I've got a splice in here where I did it before, where I got mad and yanked the EFI system out. So, you know guys, anger is not a good thing. Whenever we get angry, we need to just step back, take a minute, and trust God. But in my case, when I was doing all this, I let my anger get to me a little bit, and I said, screw it, it's coming out. And that's what happened. Okay. So it looks like we got all the zip ties cut loose. We're gonna take these clamps apart. We're gonna drain this fuel. And hopefully not wear it. I hate smelling like gas. It's like it never goes away. Now I am going to use the same fuel filters. I did that before and the fuel pump seemed to pull through the filters just fine. Well, got a little bit on me, not too much. I'd like to get none on me. Now, let's see if we can lay this down without spilling it. Tuck this way up there. Yep, splashed a little on me. All right, we're gonna scoot over. Get this line loose. It's gonna be a little more difficult to get to. I should really probably have some safety glasses on. But we'll just squint real good. Now that had all the fuel running all the way from the EFI back to this pump. So I had quite a bit. Yep, it's a little more full this time. There we go. Spilled a little bit. Nothing like the smell of fuel. Alright guys, fuel pump is in. There's a pre-filter back there. Got a wiring done. No filter here because we have a filter at the carburetor. So everything's hooked up and we are ready to get back up top and start messing with some of that old wiring and getting it out of the way, and making sure our fuel pump wire is wired to the relay properly. Once we take out the EFI, we're going to need to make sure that it's wired to the relay. So we're going to jump back up there and get busy. Alright, so I've already ran this elbow here and to my inline fuel filter. I never really cared for how this ran across here because it would rub the top of my valve cover. Even though I put this mount in to get it up higher, the way the clamp was positioned, it always scratched the top of the valve cover. So I'm trying to move that this way some, but it's kind of getting me out of whack a little bit, but I think we're going to leave it like that because the way it is right here, it's not rubbing. So I just need to turn my gauge and then decide if I'm going to mount that regulator back there on the back of the valve cover, or if I'm going to mount it on the frame rail. It's easy to get to if it's mounted back there on the valve cover, but the sucky part is if you have to take the valve cover off, you got to take the regulator loose too. It's not that big a deal, but it does kind of suck. So I'm going to figure that out, and then we'll get that fuel line ran up to the bottom of the regulator. And y'all might ask why I run the loom on it. I just think it looks cleaner and it protects the hose from any chafing or anything. There we go. So now we're going to attack the wiring, start pulling out all the old EFI wiring. In this loom right here is the fuel pump wire. So I've got to take this loom loose from the firewall and open it up and get the wiring that we don't need out and leave that fuel pump wire in, because it enters right here into the firewall, and where the glove box is where the fuel pump relay is mounted. All in effort just to keep this engine bay as empty and clean as possible. So, in here, it'll be kind of hard to see. I probably need to get a flashlight so I can see. We have got here we've got our fan relay, there's our ignition relay, and EFI. EFI relay is coming out. We do not need it. I thought we had fuel pump relay in here, and maybe that is what I've got labeled as EFI. Alright, so I got all the splices heat shrunk, and Now I'm putting the wire loom back on. We're gonna let that fuse just kind of pop out there where we can see it. We'll tape this end right here too. And then I think we're gonna hook our battery up, see if we get fuel pressure. So let's do that. Let's get our battery hooked up and see if we got fuel pressure. All right, let's see if we've got fuel pressure or fuel pump. I just want to see if the fuel pump kicks on. We're not ready to see if we got fuel pressure or not. Here's our ignition switch. And we've got fuel pressure, or fuel pump, and it is loud. Yep. So the fuel pump is working. Now we've got to get us a throttle cable hooked up and tuck away all these wires and get our choke hooked up, and we'll be able to fire it up. So we're gonna keep on plugging it. All right, so we know we got our fuel pump working. I just opened the choke all the way up, and we're gonna see if this thing will fire up. It should fire up. We can't throttle it, but we can see if it's gonna run. So let's see what happens here. It's 1, 2. Let's just tap this throttle a little bit. 3 little pumps. See if it'll fire up. Well, it started and immediately shut off. We really need to get our throttle hooked up and our choke, so we can make it run right. Let me see here. Get a flat screwdriver if I can find one here. Try her again. I'm just curious what it's going to do. That's odd. So I think it should stay running. All right, we're gonna work on that. We're gonna figure out what's going on with it. We'll figure out what's going on with it, get it dialed in, and then we'll get all of our cables, or our choke cable, and our throttle cable and get this thing dialed in. Guys, I'm sorry, my allergies are killing me today. They're just wearing me out. But anyway, we'll get that stuff hooked up. We're gonna get it dialed in. I'm not quite sure why it's running like that and then just shutting off, but we'll figure that out here shortly, hopefully. All right, so I'm sure hooking up all of our vacuum lines is gonna make this thing run a little bit better. Firing it up for the first time, you heard it idle really high. I didn't want to stay running, so it's sucking a bunch of vacuums. I didn't hook up any vacuum lines yet. But one thing we got to do is change our PCV valve. I'm sorry, not PVC, PCV valve back to a regular valve with the insides in it. Because when you're running that fuel injection, you run a hollowed PCV valve. So we're going to put that on and run our vacuum line to that. No. Sorry for all the sniffles, guys. This is, man, allergies just whipping me. Find my cutters. You know what? I think we're gonna break out the new cutters. Shoo, like butter. Cutting her like butter. Too big for that one too, dang it. Here we go. All right, we got our choke cable fed through. Whew. Boy, it is gonna be barely long enough. I mean, barely. I might be able to feed just a little bit more through. But dang, it's gonna be tight. Definitely gonna be tight. Get that brother up in there. We're not ready to adjust it yet, but we're gonna get it. Oh, excuse me. We're gonna get it held up in here anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna have to see if I can get a little more out of it, I think. I'm not liking how long or how tight it's stretched, but I may just have to buy a new cable. That would really suck. But again, when I had this on here before, did not have a manual choke. That choke cable is from when I had a 302 in this truck several years ago now. So like 5 years ago. So, cable isn't quite long enough. Well, let's get our throttle linkage hooked up. That's what we really need. We don't need to worry about the choke right now. And I got to remember how I had this all set up before. Hey guys, I'm back out here again today on the carb swap on the F100. And yeah, I should have had all this done in one day, but I ran into two problems. One, I ran out of time. Two, I could not locate my throttle cable bracket. I still never located the one I ordered a few months ago, but I did buy a new one, and it came in today. So I also could not locate the throttle cable I had previously used when I had the carb on the truck. Don't know what to do with that either, so I ordered a new throttle cable as well. So both those came in today. Went ahead and ordered some new gauges too, some autometer water and oil pressure gauges. I'm going to put them on as well. But tonight I just want to focus on getting the throttle cable on and getting the choke lined out and getting all my wires tucked away that we are still using since I had to unwrap a bunch of them. So we're going to hop onto that, and we got a few hours tonight. Let's get this knocked out and get this truck running and ready to drive. All right, guys, so another setback on the carburetor. The throttle cable bracket that I ordered, even though this carburetor was listed as one that would fit, does not fit. So it will not clear the accelerator pump arm. And I'm going to have to fab something up because I'm not messing with this past tonight, hopefully. So we're going to fab something up, but first I'm going to get this old throttle cable out and see what I got to do to run this new throttle cable, because the linkage is a little different. I'm going to have to make something up. Ford used these little plastic clips, and I'm going to have to make something work there. So I'm going to tackle that first, and then I'm going to fab up the bracket. I think that I can use my old bracket. I just got to modify it a little bit because I originally made that bracket for this carburetor. I just had where the throttle cable mounts to it moved over a little bit. So I'm gonna work on that, or work on the cable first and then the throttle cable bracket. So let's get into pulling this cable out. As you can see here, the Ford bracket, or the Ford throttle cable, has this little plastic clip that snaps into the gas pedal, and these two balls or hexagons or whatever these are connected to the cable to keep that from sliding too far. I don't know if it were to come loose, I guess. So I have got to, so this throttle cable I made up for the fuel injection because I needed something longer so it could wrap all the way around the side here. This was too long for the carburetor. So we're going to put something together with the new cable we bought and make it work. Alright guys, so we're going to climb in a cab and I'm going to show you guys what I did with the throttle cable. I actually used the old throttle cable so I could continue to use that plastic clip. I've not had one of those clips break, you know, but they're not the best thing in the world, but we're going to go ahead and use it. It makes it a lot easier on me. So as you can see up there, I've got the plastic clip, and I used that old cable, and then I put the new fittings on off the new cable that I bought. So use the old cable with the plastic fitting, use the fittings off the new cable to mount it in place. And that braided loom that's on the new cable looks a lot better too. So you can just kind of see it laying right there. I've just got it ran over to where it's going to go, and then we will fab up our bracket and figure out how long we need it. So now it's time to fab the bracket up. I've got to figure out what we're going to do with that now. Alright guys, so I got my bracket mocked up, and I used the old bracket. the one that I had made myself and had on the fuel injection and this carb previously. Now I do need to do one thing to it, so I'm going to take it back off, and I'm going to cut a section of this off and then drill some new hose for the throttle springs. But let me show you what I got. So I have got the bracket that I fabbed. I drilled a 5/16 hole for the new hardware to come through, and the springs, I doubled them up and got it all mounted up. But I think that I'm going to cut this section off, and I'm going to drill another hole over this way for the springs so they'll ride kind of straight underneath there. So let's start it up, let you guys hear how it runs. I've had it started up once, but we let you guys hear what it sounds like. Alright guys, so as you can see, it starts and runs good. I mean, I had it running before I showed you guys what I did. I had it running for maybe 2 minutes, and I didn't even have to pump the gas, and it fired right up. So it's perfect, exactly what I wanted. I'm going to fix this bracket and get it mounted and painted and mounted back, and while it's drying, we'll get our choke cable. Man, couldn't even think. We'll get our choke cable hooked back up and get it adjusted properly. So I think it's going to be long enough once I adjust it, but we're going to find out. I hope it's long enough. If not, I'll be ordering a choke cable, and we'll be getting back to that in a few days. So let's get this bracket back off and get it cut apart and get it the way we need it and get it painted. Okay guys, so there's a small segment of this video that I just did today that there's no mic, so I hope the sound quality is good. I just realized I didn't wear a mic during that part. I went ahead and did a couple of things. I got the bracket reworked and got it painted. It's drying right now, but I went ahead and hooked up the choke cable as well. So as you guys can see, it's all set. I've got it wide open right now. I do not like how it is. I'm probably going to zip tie this to one of these vacuum lines. I really need a longer choke cable, so I will probably eventually get one. Don't know if I'll put a longer one on before power tour, but it works. So opens and closes like it should. So we'll just see about that. I'm not sure if I'm going to redo that right now or not. So it's not a big deal with it being as warm as it is. Don't really need the choke anyway right now. So we're waiting on that bracket to dry. As soon as it dries, I'm going to put it on, hook the throttle cable back up, and then I'm going to clean everything up and get it all nice and neat again like it was when the fuel injection was on there. And then we'll be ready to take it out and test drive it. The carb swap will be done at that point. So we'll go out and test drive it, and then as long as everything's all good, everything runs good, we will come back and put some gauges in. So just hurrying up and wait right now. That's what we're doing, hurrying up and waiting on this stupid paint to dry, and then we can get some stuff done. So while we're waiting on paint to dry, I was thinking about last night's church service. I think once every other month we have a service on Sunday night called Revive Service, and a guest speaker will come in and preach, and man, last night's service was amazing, totally amazing. So many hearts were touched, so many lives were changed, and it got me thinking about some scripture I was reading today in 1 Timothy chapter 2, and Paul is urging us to have prayers, supplications, intercessions, and thanksgiving for each other. He's telling us to pray for everyone because God wants to see everyone saved. He wants everyone to be saved. So, and it also got me thinking about not just, you know, praying for those that don't place their faith in Jesus Christ, but to also pray for the leaders in our church, you know, our national leaders, our community leaders. We should be lifting them all up. You know, you always feel like that you're covered up and you're busy all the time, but, you know, everybody else is in the same boat. Everybody else has a lot going on. They're all dealing with the same kind of stuff that you are. So lift them up. You know, think about your church leaders, lift them up daily. Think about your community leaders, lift them up daily, and give God the glory. You know, because He's going to answer those prayers, and give Him the glory, and give Him thanks before you even see any change, because He's going to do it. So just a little thought, and that's kind of what I've been dealing with today. You know, thinking about today is I read that scripture earlier, so. And I can't wait for that next Revive service, that's for sure. So let's see if our bracket's dry. All right, so it's dry enough that my fingerprints aren't going to stick to it, so we're going to work with it. But as you can see, I cut this little section off that was over here, and I bent this up straight, and I drilled, let's see if you can see it from under here. I drilled an additional spring hole under here also. So this isn't the prettiest thing in the world, but I put a few dimple dies in it to make it look cool, right? Dimple dies make everything look cool. So we're going to put this on there and get our throttle cable hooked back up. All right, let's get y'all in here and let y'all see what we got. So there we are. We're double spring. Springs are nice and straight for the most part. Cable's nice and straight. Got a little slack in it, not much. So we're gonna fire it up again, make sure everything's good, and then we'll tuck everything away, make it all nice and pretty. Let's fire it up. So we are idling just a little bit high. So I'm going to adjust the idle just a little bit. See where we're at now. That probably got us down where I want it. Sounds like it did. Let me get y'all in here so y'all can see what we got. It's running good. Alright, so we are sitting at about 750 RPM. That's about where I like it. 1250. Good deal. I'm really pleased. Really pleased. This went really well. Could have been done in a day if I would have had that bracket, which I turned out not needing. I just wanted it to look a little better than the one I fabbed up, you know. So it is what it is. It's just a radio truck anyway that I enjoy. So yeah, so we're gonna tuck all the wire and throttle cable and the choke cable all the way and make it look nice and neat. And I'll show you guys what we got when we get it done. Shut this off before we die of carbon monoxide poisoning. Alright guys, I got everything tucked away. Tied up nice and neat. Looks like it did before I took it apart. So maybe you don't like using the wire loom. I do. I just think it makes it look neater, tucking everything away. I mean, I can't hide it, so why not make it black with wire loom, and so it doesn't just stand out. It's wires hanging out everywhere. So we got one last finishing touch to do. We have got to get our air cleaner on. So let's get y'all in here a little closer. And we're going to install the air cleaner. I need to get a new nut for it. I had a nice wing nut for it. It was, oh, I'll put the gasket on. That was a Ford wing nut and lost it. Don't know if it came off somewhere or what happened to it. Well, I'm sure it came off somewhere, but I don't know where or when it happened.